I'm Jackie Doucette, and I'm on a mission to discover exactly what life is like beyond retirement. Join me while I chat with people who've already done it, who've retired to something rather than from something. Let's find out together exactly what's waiting for us when we say goodbye to that 9 to 5. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Retirement. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Faigie Kobre. She started a career with a master's degree in early childhood education, became a teacher, a director, and then a workshop leader for daycare centers and private schools. Through the years, she continued to work in the art and creativity field, and now in her 60s, she's helping women reignite their creativity. Thanks for joining me today, Faigie.
My pleasure.
So I gave a quick summary of your life. I'd like to start off with a little bit more depth about your background so the listeners can really get a feel for who you are. Can you tell us how you got where you are today?
Okay, so as I said, I was an education person, and I got my master's from a school in Manhattan called Bank Street. It's called Bank Street College of Education, and it's a very progressive school. I don't mean progressive in the way they talk about it politically today. It's progressive in their education and their educational philosophies, how they how they teach kids, how they allow kids to learn. And I was very, very taken with their philosophies on art. And they're like very anti, these copycat cookie cutter kind of crafts that are so prevalent all over the place. And they're not into that. They're into kids doing real art and being creative and starting with the process, like really kids getting to know their mediums and materials. And I was very into that as a teacher. That was like my thing. I loved giving kids creative art. I just loved seeing what they would come up with. The interesting thing is, like, I taught like 3-year-olds, I taught 4-year-olds, I taught 5-year-olds. And I used to tell when I became a workshop leader, I was, as a teacher, and then I was a director, and then I left to bring up my kids. Of which I have 6, almost all married except for one of them. But I left, and then I was doing 2 things. I became a workshop leader for schools, daycare centers, to try to give them the understanding of what creative art does for kids, as opposed to like moving them away from this cookie cutter copycat, and trying to teach them how good it is for kids developmentally. And then I became a photographer. Photography was always an interest of mine. And I became a high-end photographer. And I did that for 25 years, actually. It was something I was able to do on the side in my home, which is, all kinds of funny stories that happen, when you're working out of your home. So I did that. I was doing those kind of things simultaneously. And then I discovered internet marketing. I think it was about the year 2006. I'm sorry, I'm just clearing my throat. And I got very interested in internet marketing. And they say just for people that are writers, you can understand this. They'll tell you, if you want to write successfully, write what you know. So this was the kind of thing, if you want to create something, an information product or something online, do what you know. And what did I know? I knew art for kids. So I started a website for parents and teachers on art for kids that was, how to do art that's developmentally appropriate. And it came to a point where I really didn't know how to market it or how to deal with it. So I started taking courses on, internet marketing, how to do it. And then at one point, I was taking a course on marketing this, and there was a very wonderful woman there named Marcia Stopa, actually, and she was one of the coaches. And she said to me, would you consider starting a site for adults to kind of show them where their blocks came from? Because I'm very into the fact that why we have so many people that say, me, I can't draw a straight line, even with a ruler. I'm not artistic, is because of blocks that happened when they were kids. What happens is that the word artistic kind of becomes synonymous with creative. And if people can't draw, they automatically assume that they're not creative, which is wrong. Number one, you can learn how to draw if you want. Anybody can. Interestingly enough, I just recently I had seen something I had written many, many years ago. We had been doing painting in our house, and there was a fellow who had found him in a friend's house. He was from the Ukraine back then, and what he did at home was he restored old churches. So he did all this beautiful faux painting, and he had an assistant working for him. And I had my boys' room. What do you want to do? You want to do Mickey Mouse? You want to do anything? And they wanted a space theme. So this guy just went and he started drawing. He started drawing astronauts and he started doing space. And he explained to me in his limited English that where they were in Russian Ukraine, they learned how to draw the same way they learn math and science. So most people know how to draw there, which is a really fascinating concept, because people tend to think that you have to have artist genes to know how to draw. But Definitely. he was saying, we learned how to draw. Everybody knows how to draw because they're learning this from a very young age. So that's just very, very interesting as an aside. And people think if they automatically, like, nobody thinks if you can't sit down at a piano and bang out a Mozart that they just shouldn't be taking lessons or they shouldn't be playing piano if they like it, right? So it's very interesting the way it became. Art is for people who really are born with the gift of knowing how to draw. There definitely are people that are like that. So she wanted me to start a website trying to show adults where they got blocked and how they can get unblocked. So I started doing research on creativity, and I started coming up with this medium, this practice called mixed media art. And this was it was fascinating to me because I always loved art. I was the type that I would be in an art supply store and I would be like a drunk in a liquor store, but I didn't know what to do with anything. I wished I could just use those materials and play with the paints, but feeling very frustrated that I didn't know what to do. So I kept coming across this thing, mixed media art. And it was just fascinating to me because it was just a whole combination of painting and stamping and collaging and stencils and everything all together. So I started a website, Creativity Reignited. And I was always looking for more activities and more types of things to learn. And then at one point I was looking through my library website for mixed media books, and I came across a book that was called Pigments of Your Imagination. It was all about alcohol inks, and I was like totally in love. And I ordered the book from the library. Then I bought it. Then I started buying materials. So alcohol inks became a big passion of mine as well. But I really have started. I become like a creativity coach to help people. It's women, because it's 99.9% of people that are interested in this are women, who to take them back to where did they get blocked and how can they get unblocked. And you can do it through a lot of these mediums and activities that are very non-threatening. Doodling, abstract painting, like free watercolors, alcohol inks as well, a combination of mixed media. And when people are allowed to go back in there and get, I read an interesting thing recently that said that perfectionists can't enjoy the process because they're just looking at the end result. And this is what happened to a lot of people when they were younger. Everybody always wanted them to just have that end result, that cute little craft, without allowing them to do the process. So I take women back into enjoying the process, learning the process, then learning some skills, and then just developing a creative habit where it just brings more joy and interest. My goal is to open people up and to get them started, find the medium that speaks to them. And then there's millions of ways to go out there through books and courses and websites to take this further. But this is something that just gives such joy and peace. And I find people in our midlife, I'm still midlife, I'm not old yet. People on midlife, they're the ones, they have more time. Either they're retiring or they're on their way to retiring. They have the time to pursue things that they didn't over a very long time. And I mean, during the pandemic, it was huge. People were online taking art classes and courses. And it's just something, I have a woman. So for about 5 years, I ran a class in my home, like a mixed media art and a book type of thing. And when I was first trying to start it, I had this book that I had all my art in. It was an art journal. And I met someone who was like a friend of a friend. And I said, oh, hi, I'm starting an art class in my house for women of our age. She said, oh, me? I can't draw. My mother was a sculptress. Then I opened the book and I showed her the stuff. And she said, oh, you know what? I can do that. You know what? It's a good time of life for me. And she joined. And she recently moved out of the country, and she told me she has expanded now. She's taking like real drawing and painting lessons because she was opened up from the experience of being in my class and getting involved in all these mediums. So I really want to just tell people, if you like art and it's something that resonates with you, you don't have to know how to draw. You got to go for it. So that's it in a nutshell.
That's amazing. And while you were talking, I'm busy scribbling down all kinds of little things so that I don't forget them all.
Uh-huh.
I want to go back right at the beginning where you talked about helping people figure out where they got blocked. So, and you said you can do it through all sorts of things, but how do you know? How do they know where the block is? Like if they're doodling, they're painting, they're stamping, whatever they're doing.
Right. So first, what I do, I've been actually, putting together, because I've been putting together this whole creativity coaching program that I'm starting. First of all, people have to be able to tap into their past experiences. So I have what I'm calling a creativity audit, to try to bring people back to early experiences. What do you remember about your early teachers, about your early experiences? To also, an interesting thing is to let people tap into what is going on when you try to create, because there's different types of art. There's very, very structured. There's very, very free. And then there's in the middle with free with some kind of structure, which is what I do. And I have found that if I'm sometimes left with a blank page and I don't really know what to do, I feel like a sense of panic rising in me. So I walk people through, here's an exercise, it's like a mindfulness, mindfulness is very big these days, to try to become aware of what are your feelings? What are your feelings? Do you feel, paint parties are very big also. And why you're just following exactly what the teacher does. There's no creativity there. There's definitely some benefit to it because any kind of handwork is beneficial, but it's not creative. And people are so scared to do on their own. They're scared of failure. They're scared of messing up. There's so much self-doubt. And I really try to get people to tap into that. Once people are aware, then they could move on. Then I have people with the different mediums. Let's explore the mediums. Let's do what you were not allowed to do as a child. Then once we go through there, then okay, good. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more structure. Now let's go in and I'll give you some challenges with this medium. Then there's going to be a lot of different parts to it. There's challenges. Then there's a little bit more structure I never do, I am making this picture, you have to follow me. Sometimes I will give more of, we're going to do this, what's your spin on it? So this way, it kind of takes people through their past, try to tap into it and get over it by re-experiencing what they weren't allowed to experience as a child.
That's kind of neat. I also kind of perked up when you talked about perfectionists, not wanting to do things because you want the end result to be perfect.
Right.
I'm definitely one of those people, and I am right there with the ones who said, I have no artistic talent, I can't draw, I can't, I'm that person.
Right.
But when I'm faced with a blank piece of paper, the only things that come into my head are the same little doodles I used to do as a kid. And that's
Right.
all that I can think of. So I
Right.
need someone to say, okay, draw this now,
Right.
or I don't draw anything.
Right. But there are ways between just do your own doodles and now draw a tree. There are things in between to help you. Let's learn different kinds of doodles. So there are ways to learn certain skills and certain techniques, and then to bring your own creativity to it. And then it's very, very satisfying. So you have something like a little bit of a crutch. You hear what I'm saying? That's what I was talking about in terms of it's almost like anarchy and, dictatorship. We want democracy. We want democratic art. That's cute. So, that's what it is. If you would have been, because there are kids like that. There are kids that, that are just very, very creative. But if you would have been allowed to just experiment with the materials, I'll tell you a story that happened once when I was teaching. It was a kindergarten class, and I got this new foreign kid. He actually came from Egypt, and he was a very bright kid. He had a very high IQ, but he had never done any art. So he went over to the easel and he started painting, and he was painting like a 3-year-old. He was just, then after a few weeks, he started painting like a 4-year-old. And then he started painting like a 5-year-old. It was fascinating because I was watching him go through the stages, and all of a sudden, because he was being allowed. So when kids are allowed to experience and experiment, instead of just taking them right away, let's create something that all the adults will be happy about. Then they're allowed, then their freedom, and then they're given more materials. It's allowed to blossom. And then you wouldn't feel that. You wouldn't feel that if you had the experience of it being able to create. So I'm trying to give it back. I'm trying to give it back to people that are interested in getting it back.
That sounds wonderful. You talked about your favorite medium, the alcohol inks. So let's talk about that a little bit more. What are they, and what do you do with them?
Okay. So alcohol inks are a medium that it's like a little bottle of ink that is it's in a dye of alcohol, and it works on non-porous surfaces. And it's not a very controllable medium. So that's, if somebody really wants to get over perfectionism, sometimes it could make people feel very uncomfortable if it's not something that it's not so controllable. So it could make them feel very uncomfortable. But there are some artists, some really realistic artists have learned how to control them, to use very little of it. But for the most part, people that I work with, I'll give like classes on, off in-person classes. I just love watching people, like they drip and they watch it expand, and it's like it really brings you back to that playing. And then there are ways to kind of contain it, but not, it's a lot of the fun and a lot of the, the experience, and it's a new medium for a lot of people too. So it's just, especially people that have had experience with a lot of mediums, but I definitely have had women that can't deal with this medium because it's just too uncontrollable for them.
You talked about the people who find it very disturbing, the women who just can't handle the alcohol inks because they're just not controllable. Are you doing them? You said non-porous surface. So is that like a pane of glass or something like that? Is that what you would use?
It can work on a pane of glass. So the way the first background that I used was something called Yupo paper, which is a plasticized paper. I've moved over to Kirkland photo paper, which is from Costco. So it's like the back side of Kirkland photo paper because it's much cheaper. That's what I mainly use, but tiles are a very good place to start. Cool. They're non-porous. Aluminum foil, it is non-porous. Anything porous is like a regular piece of paper where you drip it and it kind of like goes into the paper. The alcohol inks kind of sit on top of it, and you can blow it, You can blow it with a straw, even though that's not suggested to do too much of it because you don't want to inhale it. And you have a, some of these, what are they called? The rocket blasters that you use for cleaning camera lenses. There's a lot of very fun ways to use them. But I see that it has to be for people that are really just not looking to create something realistic, because you can learn to use that, but you have to have a lot of experience with the alcohol inks. So if somebody is just looking, I want to learn how to make beautiful landscapes, I want to learn how to paint portraits, it's not for them. It's for people who want to play and want to have fun. Women have reported to me how it makes them go into a flow state. They just, play with it. But there are other mediums as well, like even just painting with acrylics. My ladies that I had here for 5 years, they said there was just something so meditative about just painting without worrying about that perfectionistic, realistic picture. And just go look at the Museum of Modern Art, go to look at any museum. There's so many ways to do art that's not only about getting things realistic, right? There are, I remember being in the museum years ago, there was just one big black hanky in the Museum of Modern Art, just black.
Okay. Hey, I can do that.
So there really are many ways. There are many ways to, to do art that is not going to cause self-doubt and judgment. And, I know sometimes it can get people get to a wall, like, now what? That's what I've been creating in my coaching program,
So going along with that theme, and you're kind of targeting people in their, midlife, retirement age and further. What is your ultimate goal with them? Helping them do what?
Okay, so I actually start off on my website. I have like a little creativity bundle, which starts people off with showing them it gives a couple of videos on the different mediums and some exercise sheets and an article explaining the benefit of mental health. They could get that on creativityreignited.com. But my transformation I want people to, number one, develop an outlet, have a way to de-stress. Like I have one of my daughters, she says if she doesn't exercise, she goes to the gym. If she doesn't do that, it's very bad for her. She needs to do that. Art can play a similar thing. Art is amazing for depression, for anxiety. There's a whole book that I had read called The Creativity Cure, written by two doctors, a husband and wife doctor team, where they just talk about the mental health benefits of what you get from it. So I want people to have something, to have a way to de-stress, to unwind, to develop a creative practice that will give their life more color and interest. That's what I remember feeling when I got into this. It just adds a whole new dimension to your life. It's, there's different ways of doing it. People do art journaling. They'll write on top of their books if there's anything that's, bothering them. But just there's so many ways that you could just go. It's meditative. It's calming. You don't need a lot of time. You don't need a lot of space. You can do it 10, 15 minutes a day. You have a little thing on your lap with a little case. It doesn't have to be, you don't need a whole art studio. Of course, once you get into it and you want to build an art studio, go right ahead. But it doesn't need much. And it's almost like I feel like the quote unquote real artists have taken it for themselves. They've taken such a healing, unbelievable thing for people, and then it's like not for us peasants. It's for everybody, and you don't need to be an artist to use this unbelievable thing called creative art to heal, to enjoy, to add joy to your life and color. And I wish this for everybody.
Wow, that's a huge marketing statement. I love that.
Yeah.
Get on it, on the bandwagon, do your art, improve your whole life, basically.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So when you do this with people, do you do it in person at workshops? Do you do it through Zoom? How do you do it?
It's a combination. It's through videos and worksheets and one-on-ones and mini courses. So there's like a whole combination of things. Like I said, this is, I start out by offering people this creativity bundle, but if anybody's interested in talking further, they're welcome to email me, Faigie, Faigie, at creativityreignited.com. But it's really, if somebody's hasn't had any exposure to creative art at all, the best off just going to my website and downloading this creativity bundle. But it's like a whole combination. Obviously, I'm very limited. You're very limited when you're working in your own area. So this is worldwide. I've spoken to people in Australia, New Zealand, of course, Canada, all over the place. And it's something because of the internet. It kind of brings the world, it shrinks the world, and it brings them together. And, I give a lot of one-on-one and encouragement. And I just think it's something that if it's something like, I would love to do that. Some people have no interest. Art, no, I'll do music, I'll dance, but if it's something that resonates with somebody, then it's something you really should, try to unpack.
I think you're right. And I think a lot of people say, I'm not interested in art because they're scared and because they think that they're not going to be good at it.
Right.
So on your website, I'm sorry, I haven't taken a look at it yet.
Okay.
Do you have in your getting started intro bundle kind of thing, do you have explanations about all the different mediums and how to use them or what to buy if you need it? That sort of thing?
I'm not, so I cover, there's like a shortish video there on, there's like doodling and there's painting and there's watercolors. Yes, I'm trying to remember it now. It shows you what material you can start with. And there's a little one on alcohol inks as well. And definitely. And if anybody has any questions that, they get emails from me with more information as it goes on. And of course, if anybody has questions or anything to add, they just email me and I'm usually available.
That's wonderful. And going back to your family life now, you said you've got 6 kids. Did you introduce them all to art? Are they all involved?
No, my this is very interesting what I had. So my 2 older girls, who are both married with families now, years ago I had a lot of art. So my older daughter took to it, and she's still very creative. My second daughter, this is a classic thing. She saw what my older daughter was doing because she was older, and she became intimidated and really didn't feel that she was capable. Actually, she started joining my adult classes and she took off on it. It was just, I see that that's a very big problem in families when one is more naturally creative, artistic than the other one. And it's kind of a dance to try to show everybody they have their strengths and how they can do. I have my youngest son. It's a big joke. He's always joking about art, like, oh, mom, don't wait for me. You're coming to do art. I'm always trying to. But so I have 3 girls and 3 boys. My girls are interested. My boys are not. But interestingly, one of my sons-in-law is very into art and very creative. So, it's not always that it's only the girls.
And do you find very often when you introduce someone new, one of the older population, do they get excited and then back off a little bit, or does their enthusiasm continue usually? How does it work?
So it depends on the person. Because I remember once having a little group here. I invited people in the neighborhood to come see what it was about. I was doing more mixed media, and there was one woman, she was even older than me. She was extremely frustrated. She didn't like all that process stuff. She said, I thought you're going to teach us how to make an apple. And she was very frustrated. On the other hand, I have the women that were part of my group, one of them is older than me, and she said she would tell her husband all the time, it's cheaper than therapy. And she loved it. They definitely did need like a little bit more direction. It was, not some of them, there was one woman she had a little bit more experience with art. She was a little bit freer and she could do her own thing. But I think it really depends on how blocked they are and how much self-doubt they'd had about their skills. But I think it can be proven really, because I give such easy to do activities that, even just painting circles or painting stripes is a very meditative, especially if you learn a little about color. If you learn a little bit about color, and like, I know with alcohol inks, I've said, even if you just strip, if you use a good color scheme, it's going to look beautiful because colors go together. So if you learn, and that's definitely one of the things I teach in my course program, is just you learn how to do color and then things just come together. So I really think it has to do with a person. There are some people that take to it, and this is what I've been looking for all my life. And some people that are, oh, no. I'm sometimes it's a little bit more of a rigid person, somebody who can't change, can't look at things in a different way. So it's a lot of it has to do with the personality of the person.
That makes perfect sense. So Faigie, is there anything that you would like to say to the listeners about your program or about creativity and artistic talent in general, anything at all?
I would like to say that this is an amazingly healing thing for you to get into. Please don't let your lack of artistic talent stop you. Go to my website, Creativity Reignited, download the Creativity Bundle. And if it interests you and emails you get from me interest you, I'd love to work with you. I think it could change your life. I really do, so, and this, I'm not the only one. There's lots of people out there teaching art, and, some people they just want to learn how to go draw and paint. So go for it. That's great. But do some kind of art. It really will change your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being with me today, Faigie. I've really enjoyed it. It's something that I haven't really thought about myself. I've seen lots of people taking art classes and doing the little paint nights and that sort of thing, but it hasn't attracted me. And I think now from our conversation, I might just go and download that bundle and see what's going on.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for this episode of Beyond Retirement. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you ready to start rocking your retirement? Head on over to www.beyondretirement.ca/rocking it and sign up to plan out your own roadmap for retirement. Don't wait till it's too late.